Hi guys. I am not the grumpy old man who complains and asks to speak to a manager every time some little thing goes wrong. If you look on my YouTube channel, I have many videos where I am praising companies for their great or even good customer service. I think it's only right to point out if a company has great or good customer service. I think it's also right to point out when a customer has really egregious customer service. And this may have been my worst customer experience ever. I have been making YouTube videos for 5 years. I have 2 prior videos where I had customer service that was so bad I had to say something about it. This is number 3, and it is by far probably the worst. I had a friend who wanted to sell his car on eBay Motors, and he knew that I had been selling on eBay for years. I have bought and sold hundreds and hundreds of items, right near 1,000 items on eBay. And I never had any problems with eBay, the eBay side of eBay. So I said, sure, I'll help you make a listing to sell your car on eBay Motors, thinking how hard can it be? I've been doing this stuff for years. It's a great company, never had any issues with them. So I made a listing to sell his 1981 Corvette. Everything went fine. The listing went up last Sunday night. I think it was Wednesday. Because he is not, I don't want to say not computer literate, but because he does not use computers a lot, I handled everything for him. Basically just put his information and I managed the account. Wednesday night, I think it was, I logged on to check and see if we had any questions or responses about the car. I get a note on the account page, your account has been suspended. Like, that doesn't make sense. It was there yesterday, it was fine, nothing is wrong, nothing has changed. I waited and called them the next morning during business hours, and I talked to a very nice person in India. All of their all of their customer service reps are in India. Fine. She said, I can't give you any information because you are not named on the account. And I told her my friend is not here right now, but he will be here later this afternoon. And she offered to call me back later in the afternoon. And I said, great, that'll be good, thank you. She was very helpful, although she was friendly and nice, not helpful because she couldn't technically give out the information to me. When the time came, I had my friend over and his wife and my wife. There were 4 of us in the room. I was waiting for the call. It never happened. She emailed me later, said she could not get through to me for some reason. It wouldn't connect, so it's probably true. I'm not questioning that story. I called, in the meantime, after waiting past the appointment time, I called the number on eBay again. I gave them the, it's not an authorization number, it's a case number. I gave them the case number that I was referring to, told them the whole story. I was trying to sell a car on eBay Motors, and the next thing I know, the account is disabled. And I just want to know why the account is disabled, why the account is suspended, is the technical term. I rehashed all the information that I had given them in the first place when I started the account. And they said, well, what are you trying to sell? And I said, we had the listing up for a few days already. It was a 1981 Corvette. Then this was a female customer service rep. She goes, do you have a supplier for that product? And I'm, what? Do you have a supplier for that product? No, it's a car. It's one car. We're trying to sell one car. Why would we have a supplier for that product? Are you even listening to what I'm telling you? Are you looking at the account you have in front of you? And then, this was 10 minutes into the call, she says, oh, well, you want eBay Motors, you called the wrong number. Well, I called the number that was on the page for help that I got directly off of eBay Motors. It was the same number. So she goes, let me transfer you to eBay Motors. And I said, fine, that'll be great. And my wife and friends were just snickering to themselves at how ridiculous this was, you know, the way they were behaving on the phone. So I wait. A minute later, eBay Motors answers. This is a male customer service rep. I go through the whole thing. I repeat all of the information to him again that I had just told for the second time to the previous customer service rep. And he asked, he goes through the list of questions and asks me all this stuff. He says the same thing. He says, what are you trying to sell? A 1981 Corvette. Do you have a supplier for this item? And I couldn't help it being asked that the second time and realizing they're not listening to what you're saying. They're reading off of a sheet of paper, just reading a list of questions and not listening to the answers. I literally laughed out loud because I was getting frustrated, but it was funny. Do I have a supplier for a 1981 Corvette? I said, yes, we make them in the backyard. I have a whole bunch of them back there. I said, no, I don't have a supplier for a 1981 Corvette. It's an antique car. It's one car I'm trying to sell. The listing was up for several days, and then it disappeared and said, your account is suspended. At that point, I realized he had no answers for what I was trying to find. One question, why is the account suspended? This is the third person I've talked to. Why is my account suspended? And I was very polite. Like I said, my friends and my wife were there. I wasn't losing my temper. I wasn't using bad language. I wasn't yelling. I was not losing my cool at all. I was being very calm and asking a lot of questions. And my wife would be the first one to point out if I was losing my temper, and she didn't say anything. So I said, is there a supervisor I can talk to? Oh, sure, I can let you talk to a supervisor. Puts me on hold. I'm on hold for 4 or 5 minutes. Then I hear the click, which you've all experienced if you've ever been on hold with customer service, meaning that the call has been dropped. The hold music keeps playing, but it's a different tone to the call. I knew the call was dropped, and it kept every 2 minutes saying, please hold for the next available customer service representative. So I did, and I had it on speaker, and we're just looking at each other, shaking our heads. After about 10 minutes of being on hold, I was 32 and a half minutes into the call at this point, because on my iPhone there's a running count of how long the call has been connected. My friend's phone rings, and he is the name on the account, and his number is associated with the account. The caller ID said the call was from Utah, and I said, yeah, that's eBay. They have offices in Utah. Answer it. So he answers the phone, hands it to me. Fourth time, I go through all of the same information I had gone through already, saying, yeah, very politely, yes, we started an eBay Motors account. We listed a car on eBay Motors on Sunday, and I looked on Wednesday, and they're telling me the account is suspended. Can you tell me why the account is suspended? And I don't recall, honestly, because this was a few days ago. I decided to give myself a cooling off period before I made the video. This was a few days ago. I don't remember if this was the previous customer service rep that said this or the so-called supervisor that said this. But I said, can you tell me why this has been suspended? Well, sometimes when you have a new account and you go to sell something suddenly, it causes a problem. And I'm like, I have to give you notice before I sell something? That's the whole point of making an account, is to sell something. Well, sometimes if you try to sell a lot of things, no. I had one listing. I didn't try to put any more listings. I had one listing for one car. It was fine for 3 or 4 days. Then, not there anymore. This part I know was the supervisor. I remember this part specifically. And I kept asking, why was the account suspended? Well, sometimes we need to verify some information. Well, okay, what do you need to verify? We're both right here. We can tell you whatever you need to know. We gave you all the information right down to the VIN number of the car when we made the listing. What else could you possibly need to know? Well, sometimes we have to verify things, and sometimes there are questions. Okay, what questions do you have? Tell me. Well, sometimes we have to get authorization. It's like, just what do you need to know? We're both right here. Tell me, what do you need to know? What questions? Well, sometimes there are things that need to be verified. And at this point I said, like what? Well, there's lots of things that need to be verified. And I said, could you name one? Could you tell me one thing that needs to be verified that has not been verified? Well, I said, could you tell me why the account has been suspended? Well, that's standard procedure. That's standard procedure? I said, you disable everyone's account? That's standard procedure? Well, no, but sometimes there are things we need to verify. This went on for easily 15 minutes. My friend who was sitting there shaking his head could not believe this conversation, said, you know what, it's not worth it. I don't want to do business with these people. And I said, okay, well, thank you very much. Hung up the call. And that was the end of it. And when I hung up the call, and I'm not making this up, when I hung up the call, my wife and my friend and his wife all applauded and said, my God, that was great the way you handled that. And I was like, what the hell just happened? What just happened? I mean, I have never had a problem with eBay in the past. I don't know if for some reason eBay Motors is something completely separate and different. 4 people I talked to would not tell me why the account was suspended, what they needed to verify, why there was a problem. At one point, the supervisor actually said, well, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with your account. And, well, why is it suspended? Well, sometimes we need to verify. 15 minutes of this, and last night I got the survey on my computer, on my email. Please rate your experience with eBay Motors. Well, there's a couple of boxes where you can leave a 1,000-character answer, and I filled up both of those 1,000 characters full. Answered everything. I answered everything honestly. The first customer service rep, I actually gave a very good review. She did nothing wrong. The other 2 were clueless. They had no idea what they were talking about. Anyway, I'm not going to drag this out all day. You know, hopefully if you've dealt with eBay Motors, you had a much better experience than I did. I have to say, and I've had a couple of doozies in the past which I've had made videos about, but this is by far the worst customer service I have ever experienced anywhere. I could not get an answer to the simplest basic question. Why was the account suspended? Still don't know. Still do not know. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and needless to say, I will not be using eBay Motors again. I'll sell it locally. Thanks, guys.